Oh, hello. Welcome to Bloodhouse, the show where we talk about art house horror movies. I am your host, Joshua Conkle.
And I'm your co-hostess, Drusilla Adeline, aka the only non-scab Drew in Hollywood, apparently.
She just went back on it, I saw this morning. She's like now not going to start shooting again.
Good! I'm so glad that we bullied Drew Barrymore into not being a scab.
I was legitimately mad. I was
very mad.
I think
I've been singing her praises for many years.
I have loved her my whole life, basically, and I was really upset about it. And people were like, it's so sexist that people are bullying Drew Barrymore and not Bill Maher. And I was like, really? I think the thing is that like people are disappointed in Drew Barrymore and they're not disappointed in Bill Maher because they already
We expect this kind of bullshit from Bill Maher.
Right.
Bill Maher sucks.
Yeah,
Bill Maher's a conservative. He says he's a liberal. His actions say otherwise. Bill Maher is a conservative. His beliefs say otherwise.
Yeah.
When I got the news about Drew Barrymore, I was very heartbroken because, like, first of all, how many other female Drews are there in Hollywood? None. So, but on top of that, like, you know, she was like homeless and dealt with like drug abuse issues for years. She like was the producer who got Scream off the ground and took her name off of it. She is the producer who got the Charlie's Angels movies off the ground and like filled them full of lesbianism. Like
Donnie Darko is her baby.
Donnie Darko. She is like a very important like female filmmaker in the queer filmmaker in the annals of like, you know, 90s, 2000s film history. And sure, now she hosts a Wine Mom talk show, but like...
It's a good one.
It's a good one. And I don't want her to be a fucking scam.
No,
and scab.
We give you permission to go back to loving Drew Barrymore. She's made the right decision. I was just upset with her. You know, here's the thing. People forget nowadays. You can be upset with somebody and still like them. You know what I mean? Like, somebody could do a tweet that you find offensive and you just say, hey, that's offensive. Maybe they take it down and apologize. Maybe they don't. But it doesn't mean you have to hate that person for the rest of both of your lives. Like, you can move on. Now, if they do enough of those things, that's a different subject. But like everybody makes mistakes. Bloodhouse officially, I think I can say, is forgiving Drew Barrymore. And
did Drew Barrymore just get the Bloodhouse seal of approval?
I think she did.
Was she doing this the whole time just to get our attention?
I think so.
I think
she could have just asked. She could have just asked. She should know that we love her. What really bothers me about that whole conversation is that what Drew Barrymore, I guess, said, and people say in her defense, is like, well, I get that writers and actors are on strike, but what about the 150 people that are on the crew of Drew Barrymore? And it's like, this is like what white women do. Like, don't ventriloquize people that aren't you. Like, don't speak on behalf of people that aren't you. Yeah. All those people are in unions as well. And first of all, they have a much easier time finding jobs than writers or actors do. But second of all, this is the code of ethics in Hollywood. This is the way that things are done. Like, everyone who's in a union knows this and believes in this. I don't know a single person in a Yahtzee or a Teamster who's like, let's scab. You know what I mean? Like, this is our code of conduct. It's understood. And it's just the way that things are done. Like, you do not cross a picket line. You do not scab.
If anyone should fucking know this, it should be Drew, whose grandparents were some of the founding members of SAG.
What somebody on Blue Sky did the math. She's a 5th generation Nepo baby. 5 generations of Barrymores in Hollywood. It goes way, way, way back. And it's like, come on.
Come on, honey.
Yeah. But bygones are bygones. She's done the right thing. How are you?
I'm good. I've had a lovely little weekend, a lovely bit of time to do some work away from work and to head to the cinema and see a flick. I had the lovely opportunity of heading to what I'm just now lovingly referring to as my neighborhood theater, the Vidiot's theater over in Eagle Rock.
Which is, in fact, not your neighborhood, but go on.
It's not my neighborhood,
it's not
but
anywhere
it's
near your neighborhood, really.
Very close. It's 5 minutes from my house.
Is Eagle Rock
5
minutes from Glendale?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
on the highway.
Okay.
On the 134 to the 5. Yeah. Because they did like they're preparing for Halloween by already showing horror films, and they showed two Bloodhouse approved bangers on Friday evening. I did not attend the first one because I was sleepy tired and was busy making a salad at my home. But I did attend the later one. So at 7:30, I believe, they screened a movie that we've talked at length about on this show before, Tony Scott's The Hunger.
Oh, yes, I saw that.
But then later in the day, and the one that I went to, is a movie that always feels weird to watch in a movie theater and to watch projected, because it's such, in every essence of its being, a movie that screams to be watched on home video. David Cronenberg's Videodrome.
Yeah.
My God. I've
never seen that in a theater.
I'd never seen it with an audience before. I don't think.
How did it play?
It played like gangbusters.
Great.
Everyone, it was packed. We sat near the front just to get like covered in the ooze that is Videodrome. And people were having the time of their lives. Every like little bit of dialogue got people laughing, as it's supposed to. A lot of the beginning of that movie is very funny and intended to be very funny. With a lot of his like sarcastic play on media commentary. And then Gesundheit, as soon as the Rick Baker of it all comes on, as soon as the goop and guts come, like as soon early on into the movie, there's a part where James Woods is complaining that he just has a rash and just like inadvertently scratches his stomach, and people were like cheering and clapping because they know what's coming later. It was so goddamn fun. I love that movie so much. It's always been like a big part of my life. I watched it when I was like 14 or some shit, and would watch it all the time when I was in high school. And I didn't really realize until seeing it the other night how much of my belief structure and my identity has either I was a perfect person to watch Videodrome because I was going to grow into the person that loves everything about that so much, or did Videodrome influence me to become the person that I am? One may never know.
It's like a snake eating itself. Like,
am I a product of Videodrome? Am I just the video word become flesh? Who's to say? But it's a fucking bop. I was so happy to see it with an audience. I love it more every single time I watch that movie. And if you are not going to the Vidiot's Theater and you live in Southern California, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah, Vidiot's is so good.
What about you? Have you been like cramming your brain with goodness until it explodes in tumors?
I did this weekend partake in the, I think you told me about this. You alerted me to the teen horror section of Criterion this month.
Yeah.
So I logged on to there, and there was only one teen horror movie in that category that I hadn't seen besides Battle Royale Part 2, which I'll never watch because
everyone says it's terrible.
Yeah. And I love Battle Royale. It's probably like in my top 10 favorite movies. I watched from 1976, I believe, Massacre at Central High.
I've heard about that. I remember when I think Synapse said that they were going to work on a restoration of it, and it took them like 10 years to do it. Yeah. And I was like, all right, sure, whatever. And then I had some friends watch it recently on the channel, and they were saying that it is a fucking bananas movie.
It's so weird. It was like you said, kind of a lost movie, but very influential. Like a lot of people, this is a movie from 1976. It's kind of a proto slasher. It's not a slasher, but it kind of at some point in the movie takes that sort of format a little bit. So it's a little bit of a proto slasher, and it's so weird. It's filmed like an after school special from the 70s, you know? First of all, there's not an adult on screen at any point in the entire movie. No teachers, no parents, no adults at all, which is such
Whoa.
a weird, wild choice. And it's filmed like a 70s after school special. And the acting is like really wooden and flat in a way that is not on purpose, but it kind of ends up feeling like a Yorgos Lanthimos movie because everything's delivered so flatly. And then they have these wild deaths. Like there's like quote unquote accidental paragliding accident where someone's paraglider crashes into telephone lines.
What?
And there's also like a threesome happening in a tent and somebody arranges like an avalanche of rocks to crush them inside the tent. It's like so insane. But it's also a movie about fascism.
What?
Yeah. It's like centered around a group of like rich popular boys who represent fascism, and when they're taken out, other people like come in to fill those slots basically, and it's like kind of about the cyclical nature of fascism.
What?
It's insane. It's a really weird movie but pretty fun.
I need to watch this immediately.
It's so crazy. It's not exactly good, but it's like really interesting as a tonal experiment or you know what I mean? Like it's a really singular, super weird, crazy tone movie, and it is worth watching for sure.
God, that's Criterion. Insane. I cannot wait to. I'm probably gonna watch that later today.
Today's a perfect day for it because it's like a gloomy day in LA. It's like a make a soup day and watch a weird movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh my god, I need to do that. I need a bit of a pick me up today after what we're about to discuss.
I know. Let's get into it, listener. This is a roughie. It's one of the roughest of all the roughies. We are discussing, of course, from 1986, directed by John McNaughton, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
Otis, plug it in.
Did you really kill your mama?
What?
Did you really kill your mama?
I guess I did.
She must have treated you real bad.
She was a whore.
Now, I first heard of this as a teenager because of the John Waters film Serial Mom, where Matthew Lilliard's character, the teenage horror-obsessed son of Serial Mom, is like, Mom, have you seen Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer? And that's how I learned of this movie. I never watched this until 2020 because, to be totally honest, I'm not a big fan of the rough horror movies.
You're a squeamish little baby.
I'm a soft little tender queer. I've never seen.
You don't like sex on screen.
I don't like sex on screen. No, I've never seen Cannibal Holocaust. I've never seen Faces of Death. I've never seen Sallow 90 Days of Sodom or
120 Days of Sodom. They upped it.
I don't know why.
It's another month of Sodom. If you don't see your shadow, it's another month of Sodom for you, Josh.
If we had show titles, that would be the title. Not that I don't. I usually like these to some extent when I actually do sit down and watch them, but it's hard for me to
I think you'll love Sodom.
You know what? I'm going to sit down and watch Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer today. But I did do that in 2020. It's like the whole world is ending. Everything's rotten. Today's the day. Let's watch.
What did Michael Rooker look like in a tank top in 1986? Let's find out.
That's the best part of this movie. But I loved this movie. I thought it was really good. I thought it is an exploitation film, but one that's also an art film, which is always such an interesting, worth talking about overlap. And it's just an excellently crafted movie that I loved. And so I watched it again for the podcast, and that's my history with Henry Portrait.
That's enough for a decade.
Yeah. How about you?
I love this movie. I genuinely don't remember the first time I heard about this movie. The title had to have popped up in some kind of pop culture kind of lingo. I'm sure it was mentioned on like Buffy or some kind of thing that I watched when I was in like middle school, and so the title had like rummaged around my head. And when I was in either the 8th grade or the 9th grade or like freshman year of high school, I was on a real weird kick of trying to get into extreme cinema. I'd seen like A Clockwork Orange and it was like, I can take anything.
Yeah.
And so I was watching like Straw Dogs and shit like that at the time. And I was trying to get into horror movies, and I remember seeing Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer like coming on TV like after school at 3:00 or some shit, and I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. And I watched it like a lot at the time. I think I like had it recorded on a DVR when I was fucking 14. And every now and then I would just slap on if it was on TV or if I had nothing better to do, I'd slap on Henry. And like I was watching The Elephant Man a lot at the time and Straw Dogs. I was watching some rough, emotionally raw shit, which when you are a teenager with like no emotions because fucking hormones are insane,
Yeah.
I guess that's a thing you can do. I rewatched this in the pandemic as well, for a work-related thing, and goddamn has it only gotten rougher with age and harder to watch. I don't know if that's me or the movie or the times.
Well, I
but
was just going to ask you, do you find that you get more sensitive as you age? Because I do. Because like you, I used to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre after school like it was, Animaniacs or something. Like it was nothing. And now that movie really gets under my skin and is really upsetting. And I find that with a lot of movies. Like, it's not like I like them any less. It's just that like I actually am affected by them more as an older person.
That's interesting. I'm kind of torn because partially I've been going through this issue where I feel like I'm more desensitized than ever. I will go to a theater with friends and watch a horror movie and feel like barely scared at all. I had that experience when I saw Hereditary in theaters. I was just like, meh. Everyone's jumping. I don't get it. But then just recently, my partner showed me the Nicolas Cage, Richard Stanley adaptation of Colorado Space, and I was like petrified the whole time, but more existentially, because that movie is, it's H.P. Lovecraft, but it also felt like kind of like When the Wind Blows, like a post-nuclear fallout kind of movie in a way that had me like really... I feel like things that are more realistic, things that are really grounded in like the horrors of humanity, like histories of sexual abuse or serial murder or, the bomb and the effects of disease and radiation and things like that. Those are the things that freak me the fuck out. So Texas Chainsaw has always freaked me the fuck out. It's not for the hacking and slashing. It's not for Bubba with the chainsaw. It's for Grandpa. It's like for
the meanness of it. That's what I'm more talking about.
Yeah.
Like the meanness of things. It gets under my skin more now than it used to. Like I used to think Happiness was the funniest movie I've ever seen, and I still think that movie is funny. But like now I get why it's so sad and painful for some people too. Like it truly wasn't for me when it came out. I thought it was just purely a hilarious movie, and now as a 40-year-old, I'm like, oof, this movie is so rough.
I almost feel I've kind of gone the opposite because when I was growing up, I used to like have a hard time watching The Simpsons. I used to not understand why The Simpsons was funny because I was like, this shit's sad. They're a poor family, and like this, like Bart burned down their Christmas tree and all their presents. How is this funny? This is fucking sad. Like I just did not get the jokes on so many things like that for years, and then after college, I would watch that shit and I was like, fuck it. Fuck it, that's hilarious. I don't know. Speaking of Happiness is screening at the New Beverly in October. We should go.
Yes. I think it is. I'm excited. I feel like I had something that day when you sent me that text, but I can't remember.
It's screening for 3 days.
Oh, okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, we should go. So this movie was made in 1985 for a little over $100,000, shot on 16 millimeter film in the Chicago area with all Chicagoans. premiered at the Chicago International Film Festival in 1986, and then had a lot of trouble getting distribution and wasn't really distributed until 1990. So it was a long journey. It did get positive reviews from some big names like Ebert and such.
That one.
And
The thumb guy.
Roger Ebert did say, so this is coming secondhand through Roger Ebert, but he said that the MPAA told John McNaughton and the producers that there was nothing that they could do editorially to make this an R-rated movie instead of an X-rated movie. So it had an X rating.
I mean, the whole vibe of this movie is, to quote an article I read recently about the Ken Russell movie Crimes of Passion and its battle with the censorship, the quote, tenor of this movie is an X. The whole vibe of everything you're doing, you couldn't cut things out. To get to an X. You can't cut out that shot of a boob, that shot of a beer bottle smashed into a woman's nipple. Like, you could cut these things out, and the vibe would still be rancid.
We'd still feel them.
You still don't want a 16-year-old or 14-year-old Drew watching this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that this movie would get an X. I mean, movies like this don't get X's anymore.
Movies like this don't get made anymore.
Well, that's true. It would be unrated or it would be NC-17. X nowadays pretty much just means pornography.
Well, X no longer exists.
Oh, doesn't it?
Officially, X was dissolved in the early 1990s and turned into NC-17.
Oh, I see. I always thought that NC-17 was meant to be between R and X.
No. X was... This is all that I have learned from listening to Korean Longworth's podcast. You must remember this and the two-part series on erotic 80s and 90s.
Fatty Arbuckle.
She does. I was playing an episode the other night for my partner
too hard.
while I was cooking, and Ivory was like, "She hits her T's," and I was like, "Yeah, she over enunciates a lot." She does. But the X rating was implemented in the late 1960s after the fall of the production code, and movies like Midnight Cowboy were released with an X rating with the intention of it being like, for prestige art films that Hollywood was making that were only intended for adults. Like, let's import a Pasolini movie, it's going to get an X.
Right.
But also, Deep Throat was made.
Right.
And Deep Throat got an X, and so very quickly X was synonymous with porn, despite the fact that a Best Picture winner was rated X. And so in the 1980s, in Reagan-era times, no one wanted an X because it was immediately seen by the general public to be porn.
Pornography.
Even though porn films weren't rated by the MPAA, they could just slap the letter X on a poster, and people would be like, X-rated, it's porn. And so to, like, solve that issue, the MPAA dissolved X entirely in a vat of acid and brought it back out, newly formed, like the Joker, as NC-17, and the first NC-17 movie was Henry and June, which isn't that tough of a movie, but because Unbearable Lightness of Being had to be cut down to get an R from an X, they thought, hey, we'll just give it to that same dude. And then I don't think they had another NC, and that was a flop. I don't think another NC-17 movie came out until Showgirls and Crash. Those were the big NC-17 movies in the 90s.
So if I'm understanding, then there actually is no X rating. Pornography falls outside of the jurisdiction of the MPAA, and X rating for them is just branding, basically.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Yep. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
This is the first starring role from Michael Rooker, who I know from Mallrats and Walking Dead. I'm told he's in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I have never seen and will never see.
You're fine.
Yeah.
They're the best that certain studio that sucks has to offer, but still, like...
I feel like I'd probably like them if I was forced to watch them, but I don't want to be.
It's kind of being like, what's the best burger at McDonald's?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but it's still a burger at McDonald's. It could go anywhere else.
There was recently a great article about the flatness of Marvel and the way that dialogue is written. You know, like you can expect these certain lines, like, are we doing this? Or, well, that happened. Or,
Yeah.
you know, like all the generic Marvel dialogue and how like it's flattened dialogue in movies. Michael Rooker is amazing in this. He plays Henry, of course. And he stayed in character for all 28 days of filming this, which is like, ugh.
I was reading info about this movie, and I think the makeup artist drove to set with him every morning to carpool, and she was so unnerved all the time. And apparently he would like talk to her on the ride to work, on the ride to set, about like his childhood and stuff, and it took her like a while to figure out that, oh, he's talking about Henry, not himself. Gross.
That is gross. Yeah, it's funny. He's like sort of an unreliable narrator for the film because there's a great scene where he's talking to the only female character, Becky, played by Tracy Arnold, and he's telling her about how he killed his mother. And he says that he shot her, stabbed her, and then Becky was like, oh, I heard that you beat her to death with a baseball bat, you know, and it's just like he either is lying or can't remember how he actually killed his mother. It's just he does that kind of a lot where he seems like a pathological liar or something, you know?
Yeah, serial killers tend to also be pathological liars.
It's true. It is true.
Which we will get into when we talk about the real Henry Lee Lucas.
So I guess synopsis-wise, this movie follows Henry, played by Michael Rooker, who is roommates with a man named Otis. They met in prison years before. And Otis is kind of a simpleton and is almost as violent as Henry is. And because of an incident with sex workers turning south, they get involved in murdering people together. Meanwhile, Otis's sister, Becky, is staying with them. She has been divorced from her husband back home. She has a little girl that's waiting for her back home. And she starts to take a shine to Henry, which is tragic and awful. And it all kind of unravels from there and gets worse and worse and worse. On top of all of this, I should say, at some point they acquire a video camera and start filming their murders. So it takes on a kind of icky documentary feel.
It's great.
Else you'd say about the synopsis?
There's kind of you know, a secondary through line through this movie where the relationship that Henry has with Becky seems to be transforming his character and seems to be having him start to make decisions that it seems like at the beginning of the movie he wouldn't make, and defending Becky from the people around her, including her brother, who is assumed to be his partner in crime throughout much of the movie. And throughout the movie, we start to believe that, okay, maybe Henry's changing and growing as a person. Maybe he's working on himself. Maybe he's in therapy. Maybe he reads Goop. That would be an incorrect assumption based on the final shot of this movie.
If only Henry had access to a water bottle with an amethyst in it from Goop, things might have been okay.
He's got to cleanse his aura from the inside out. Only then can he find true happiness.
Poor Becky. She's the
Poor
character that
Becky.
you really feel for. She's like a young mother.
She's running away from an abusive relationship and lands in the worst place possible.
Yes. And we know that she was sexually... By the way, we're going to talk about the worst things because this movie is so rough. So just know that. Yeah. Sorry if we didn't say that up front. So she was sexually abused by her father. It's suggested that she was sexually abused by her brother, Otis, who's the third character in the movie. So she's one of those women who's just like broken and thinks that she just like needs a man to be happy. And unfortunately, that is Henry.
Yeah. The other weirdly meta-tragic thing, I don't know if tragic, it might be a little over-dramatic of a phrasing, is that the actress who plays her, Tracy Arnold, only did like 2 other movies.
Yeah.
She's stupendous in this.
She's really good. I think that people don't ever talk about her being really great in this movie, in my experience, but she is.
Obviously, Michael Rooker went on to have a big career after this movie. We all can kind of imagine his face and his very tough persona. Tom Tolles, the other co-star of this movie, was like from the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, and he went on to be in like House of a Thousand Corpses. So the main three of this film, the dudes went on to bigger success. I don't know Tracy Arnold's story. There's very little about her to find online. I believe she's still alive. I don't know if she retired from acting, if she couldn't get the roles, if she stayed in regional theater in Chicago or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think she's phenomenal, and I would love to see more from her.
Yeah. Michael Rooker and Tom is it Towles or Tolles?
I believe it's Tolles.
They were both, as you said, Steppenwolf people. For listeners who may not know, outside of New York, Chicago is probably the biggest and most important theater town in the United States. And Steppenwolf is the center of that. And it's a really interesting theater because it has members. So like Carrie Coon is a member, Michael Shannon is a member. It has these really great members who are members for life. And so all of the plays they pick are centered around the actor members. So it's actor driven. And traditionally the taste of Steppenwolf and in theater in Chicago in general is kind of like this movie. It's very masculine. It's about brothers that are fighting, like Sam Shepard style plays. That's changed a little bit. But that's kind of the soup from which this is coming a little bit. I love the way that this movie looks.
This is one of the grimiest 16 millimeter movies ever. It is gorgeous.
16 millimeter film is so beautiful.
You know how people talk about like a Woody Allen movie or a Scorsese movie, and they use very, very trite language like New York is a character, like things like that. For this movie, I want to say that the grain is a character. The film grain is a character in this movie.
Yeah. I think
very much so.
Off mic, I think you called this like Midwest Gothic, and it does feel like that. I mean, I do think
this
that
is
Chicago,
Midwest Gothic. Oh,
Chicago is a character in this. It looks like, I mean, everything is like dingy apartments and diners and like back alleys. It sort of feels like an old 70s John Waters movie in that way, where it's like you could pay $1 million for this production design. Instead, they just went for free around Chicago in 1985.
So much of this is filmed in like abandoned like warehouses and factories and stuff like that. And like, again, we'll get into it, but like the real life story that this is based on is Henry Lee Lucas, and his spree took place in the South, from like Texas up through I think Louisiana and Georgia. And transplanting that to Chicago is both like, you know, a production thing of like it was produced in Chicago.
That's where they were. Yeah.
That's where they were. But it transforms the story so much and the tone of it. And Chicago at the time was having a sort of like cinematic moment. We were getting the Blues Brothers and everything by John Hughes and Ferris Bueller. And Chicago was kind of seen as this, like, fun, lawless romp of a town. Even, like, Walter Hill's Streets of Fire is, like, filmed on sound stages in LA, but it's styled to look like Chicago. They kind of had this, like, fun, mythic Wild West, like, let's go to Chicago, our dreams can come true, whatever you want to do, it's in Chicago. I've never seen the musical, so I don't know if that's a song.
It's fabulous. You'd love it.
I'm sure.
It's a great musical.
I don't like any of the actors who are in the film version of it, so maybe I'll see a production of it. But then this movie comes along, and it's like, no. This is what Chicago is like. This is what Chicago is like. We got the factories, we got the hot dogs, and we got the epidemics. It's great. This is maybe the most accurate depiction of Chicago until like Candyman. I love the world of Chicago with this movie. It's almost less like Chicago and more like the neighboring boroughs of Chicago and more like, you know, like upstate Indiana a little bit. So one of the most fascinating things about to me about Chicago as a former Chicagoan and as a Midwestern is that like outside of every major city, there's always like the little outskirt, like boroughs and cities and towns.
Yeah,
and stuff.
like it's industrial and kind of abandoned, and
you always get industrial outside of the city, but Chicago is a certain like it feels like a certain like ring of hell before you get to, because it was all factory towns that were built at the early like industrial revolution, the early 1900s, built on Lake Michigan because there's water and you can like ship things up through Canada and back through the eastern part of the United States through there. It's very, very, very important. And all these company towns like Gary, Indiana, and on the outskirts of Chicago all failed and died by
Gary, Indiana's a rough town.
The 50s through the 70s. And they had a large migration of African American populations following the Civil Rights Movement, which then led to a white flight of racist white families that lived there, fleeing the worst version of that awful "there goes the neighborhood" kind of phrasing. And so when the factories dried up and all the money dried up, they became that's why it's kind of known as the Rust Belt nowadays. It's just truly empty, rusty buildings, not much going on. And very little of that part of the country has changed since 1986. And it's heartbreaking. And the parts that have changed for the worst reasons, because tech companies are coming in and preying upon these towns and trying to do the exact same thing that happened like 100 years ago and try to build company towns in there. It's a nightmare. But
it's similar to Appalachia, really, but people don't talk about it the same way.
Very much so. It's, I mean, in industrial ways, honestly, the opening like 30 seconds of the Blues Brothers captures it very well, because it's like pre-dawn industrial, like Joliet County, Illinois, with like fire bursting out of factories and stuff like that. It feels more like a David Lynch movie than a John Landis movie for the first 30 seconds. And that vibe is this movie.
Do you know what else I think captures it really well? Is the opening like 20 to 30 minutes of Ladies and Gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains, Allentown, Pennsylvania, where the girls come from. Is like, oof. It's the same vibe.
And I love that. The other one that I always think of is the Raquel Welch Derby movie from the 1970s.
I don't know.
Kansas City Bomber. It's like a early 1970s derby movie, that roller derby movie with her. And then also Slapshot with Paul Newman. All kind of capture this like dying Rust Belt America in a really beautiful way. But those movies all have the hope of like, we're getting out. We have these opportunities for all these things. Even the Blues Brothers are like, we're gonna work and we're gonna make the city what we want and we're gonna save the orphanage and the penguin will be happy. And then Henry is just like, this is the scum hole of the earth and I can do whatever I want here. This is Babel. Lord.
So there's a number of really infamous scenes in this movie. The first I would say is when they go to get a new TV from this really nasty, probably mafia connected man, and they end up killing him instead by crushing his head with the television. And that's when they get their video camera, which changes everything for the worse. There's a scene where they have two sex workers that they end up killing. That's very upsetting. But the most upsetting scene is the home invasion scene, which is the scene that like haunts my memory and the one that I look forward to the least when I rewatch this movie is when and this is all, you're seeing it through the eye of the video camera. They murder and sexually assault, in the woman's case, a family of a mom, dad, and teenage kid. and they're like laughing and enjoying it and filming it, and it's just the ickiest scene I think I've ever seen. It really upsets me. Did you have the same reaction? I assume you did. I mean,
the last few times I watched it, I think that this was the sequence where I was like, I'm gonna go to the kitchen and grab a drink. I'll be right back. Is there
really
seltzer in the fridge? Let me go check.
The hardest part. And I the first time I watched this, I was like, this isn't quite as bad as I was led to believe it was. And then that scene came and I was like, oh, yeah. Yes, it is. This is bad, 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 bad.
The other thing that really gets under my skin watching this movie is that there's a few homicides that are not shown in the act, but we kind of get the aftermath of.
We get the body.
We get the bodies of that are posed exactly the way that some of Henry Lee Lucas's victims or supposed victims were, with a bottle in the face, and it's very, 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 very upsetting just to kind of like linger on these really morbid recreations.
And this movie is so low budget that a lot of those victims are the same girls. So, like, I know that one of the women was, like, a friend of somebody on the production, and she plays, like, 3 different corpses in the movie. So they just redress her and put different wigs on her and stuff like that. Yeah, that stuff is really upsetting.
But that, honestly, like, is a good, fun, little cheeky indie DIY, like, trick, but also like lends towards what the movie is going for in terms of Henry being the person who's like eyes reviewing all of this through, and him being a super unreliable narrator and seeing all of these sex workers and all of these women that he's like violating and murdering as just faceless same person. Like,
yeah. There's also a romantic element of this. I mean, Becky does fall in love with Henry. There are scenes that feel genuinely romantic, and it sort of it feels like Springsteen's Born to Run, you know, like we're poor people, but we're going to make it work no matter what. And we're going to go on the run and leave everything behind. And it kind of feels like, you know, it kind of feels like that, like tragic and romantic, and almost like it could become Natural Born Killers or something. But that's not the path it takes. But poor Becky. I mean, what a tragic character. I don't know what else to say about her.
I mean, at best, he could get her a better suitcase, is all I'm going to say. She deserves better.
Yeah. Eventually, Henry does murder Otis, who is trying to sexually assault his sister, Becky. They together cut up his body and dump it around the Chicago area, and they go on the run together. And we get a few scenes of them in the car, and she's like, we got to send for my kid. And he's like, once we get to my sister's horse ranch in California, we'll send for her. And I don't know, they stop at seedy motels, and it just is like, ugh.
And then we just don't see her again.
Yeah, we think it's all going to be okay. That the last thing we see is like them together in a hotel on their road trip to California.
And that he leaves alone with a large suitcase.
Yeah, he leaves alone with a large suitcase, which he leaves by the side of the highway. End of movie. Brutal movie.
Deeply upsetting. Speaking of deeply upsetting, the movie and, of course, the title and character take major inspiration from the life and crimes of the real Henry Lee Lucas, who was born in 1936 in Virginia and was caught and arrested in 1983, around the time this film was being gestated by John McNaughton as to what kind of a horror movie he was going to make for these producers who he'd made some documentaries with before, and the next documentary they were going to make kind of fell through, and they still had the money, and so they were like, let's just make a horror movie. Horror movies are big right now. It's the 80s.
Right,
Here's
and
some
they
money.
wanted to make like an alien movie or a monster movie or something like that, right? And he was like, we can't do that with $100,000.
Yeah. And he saw a news report about Henry Lee Lucas, and he jumped at it. Two things to be aware of. First of all is that Henry Lee Lucas's story took place in the South. The crimes he committed or alleged to commit took place in the South. But in the Chicagoland area at the exact same time, from 1981 through about 1983, 1984, there was a group of serial killers operating in the Chicagoland area and in the exact same parts that this movie was filmed in, who were committing very similar crimes. Robin Gecht and the Ripper crew. 4 serial killers that operated together in a van that was designed as a moving kill box throughout Chicago that targeted sex workers. And I'm going to stop there because every other thing about them is really grotesque and horrifying. And honestly, you don't need to know about it other than these guys are the fucking worst. One of them is dead and the rest are in prison.
I grew up in Washington State where we had the Green River Killer my entire life. Like, he started in the 70s and was finally caught in, I think, 2003.
Jesus.
And again, focused on sex workers. And one of my favorite movies I've mentioned before is the documentary about homeless teenagers in Seattle from the 80s called Streetwise, which is a beautiful movie, beautiful documentary. And after I watched it recently, maybe like 2 years ago, I looked at the Wikipedia, and one of the girls in Streetwise ended up becoming a victim of the Green River Killer.
No.
Yeah, it's actually the like really tough lesbian character in Streetwise. Not character, she was real. Yeah, there's like a Butch Dyke kid in Streetwise, which is crazy because it's from 1982. So like the violence that she must have faced living on the streets must have been extraordinary. But it's such a sad thing. Like serial killers, I mean, that's an interesting thing to talk about, right? Like the popularity of true crime has exploded in the past decade or so. And there's a lot of hand-wringing about it, which I understand. But I also think, on the other hand, it's probably human nature to be interested in these things, because if it weren't, we wouldn't be. So, morally speaking, I don't know where I come out on that. I guess, like most things, I sort of feel like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I am very I am the kind of person who likes to ingest true crime stories. I know about this stuff because I enjoy watching a true crime doc. I listened to the last podcast on the left, and these are things that I enjoy in the right context and the right doses. And I enjoy them from the lens of talking about a historical thing that happened and hearing from the victims and things like that. I do not like the Ryan Murphy of let's cast people and recreate stuff all from the lens of that. I don't need to know how many times that guy watched Exorcist 3 with his dick out. I don't need to know that. I don't need to see that. There's other ways of conveying that information that are less profiting off of that murder, those horrendous things, and then also plastering that person's face all over a city.
Yeah,
that's gross to me.
Totally. I'm not often sanctimonious about these sorts of things, but something about the Ryan Murphy treatment of Jeffrey Dahmer seemed ghoulish to me, and I avoided it. And I have experienced that with documentaries or podcasts where I feel like it feels like they like the murderer, not the victims. You know what I mean? It feels like a little bit icky, and that I'm not into, but...
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing about Henry Lee Lucas is that he has claimed to have murdered over 250 individuals, and a lot of those claims that he confessed to in 1983 when he was arrested are what inspired this film. However, since that time, investigators have found that the vast majority of that to be incorrect, implausible, and impossible.
Yeah.
He did kill his mother in 1960.
Mm-hmm.
He did have an incestuous relationship with his brother-in-law. He did have an abusive relationship with his mother. His mother did abuse him and force him to wear women's clothes. And his mother was a sex worker who, according to him, farmed him out to clients, which is grotesque. He did work with a man named Otis, who he had a relationship with that was romantic and sexual. And they did kill together. And they had a time of just living together with no homicide. But it also seems that he wanted to be this bigger serial killer that he wasn't. They did murder at least 2 sex workers together. And when he was caught, they had a bunch of other unsolved missing persons cases and murders, and he just confessed to all of them. He's now more commonly known as the confession killer.
Right, he's full of shit. Like he's full of shit, lying. Like
again, he kind of comes down on the side of being more of a pathological liar than truly a serial killer. He seems more. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he is a serial killer.
Is he still alive?
I believe he is. No, he died in 2001.
Okay.
Yeah, at the age of 64. So even if he hadn't, then he'd definitely be dead by now. But yeah. He, Henry Lee Lucas didn't get to see 9/11. He died in March of 2001. Missed out on a big cultural moment.
Big cultural shift.
We don't know if jet fuel melts steel beams. We don't know if Bush was involved. But we know Henry Lee Lucas, innocent of 9/11.
He would have claimed it if he were alive.
Honestly, he would have. Oh my God. He would have claimed it so hard.
Well, that is a perfect segue into Have They Seen It? A game where we speculate wildly whether notable figures did 9/11. No, I mean, whether notable figures have seen the movie. I'll go. I named this person, and so that's why I thought of him. He's a Steppenwolf ensemble member. Do you think Michael Shannon has seen Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer?
I definitely think he has. I feel like Michael Shannon is a very well-watched individual, but he's also a very like blue-collar Chicago kind of guy. I mean, he watched the Oscars in which the movie he was in won Best Picture from a bar, from a dive bar in Chicago.
Yeah.
I love him so much. But he's also like, I don't know. I feel like he's definitely worked with a lot of the actors from this movie, and I feel like this is the kind of thing that he watched when he was probably in college and studying acting. But I also feel like if he was on Letterboxd and had a Letterboxd top 4, this would be in it.
I have to brag for just a second because I had a play at Steppenwolf in 2015 and Michael Shannon came to see it and he said he loved it. Shook my hand after. Yeah.
I've heard he's a very sweet boy in person, but I've heard he's also very can be very difficult on set because he gets very in character.
Oh, really?
But I mean, he sounds great as far as I know. So Henry Lee Lucas died a piece of shit in 2001. Well deserved. I don't think he ever got the opportunity to watch Henry Portrait Serial Killer. I don't think they would have let him. I mean, at the end of the day, barely ending this movie is actually based on him. So, fine. However, a lot of this movie is inadvertently more accurate to the work of the Ripper crew. Do you think that Robin Gecht, the piece of shit head of the Ripper crew, ever saw Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer?
When were they caught? Do you know?
They were caught in, I think, 83. Or in the early 1980s.
Yeah. Before this movie, in any case.
This movie. And I believe, or no, they weren't caught until the late 80s, I believe.
Well, still,
either way,
no, because this didn't get premiere until 1990, really. So they would have had to see it at a film festival, and I find it implausible that the Ripper crew is going to film festivals like Telluride. Maybe
they seemed like big old dummies too. The Ripper crew, big lunkheads.
But I bet that they heard about it in prison, and I bet they were fucking pissed, right? Because I bet they were telling everybody in the block or whatever, like, that's me. That's not Henry Lee Lucas. That's based on me. Pieces of shit.
Fun fact, one of the Ripper crew was sentenced to the same prison as John Wayne Gacy.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
and like became like John Wayne Gacy's little understudy in prison.
Oh my god.
From follower to follower. Fucking gross.
I knew this woman in New York named Samantha who grew up in Chicago, and she had
She grew up Chicago?
Yeah.
I college Chicago, so I get it.
She grew up in Chicago, and I don't know if this story is true, but she told me this was in her 20s, so a while ago. She had a much older brother named Chuck, and she was home in Chicago and going through old photos, and she found a photo of Chuck's like little kid birthday party, and there was a clown in the photo, and the clown was John Wayne Gacy. I don't know if that's true, but it's a great story.
It's possible. Oh god, that's horrifying.
Yeah. Speaking of John Wayne Gacy, there's a beautiful song about him by the singer-songwriter Sufjan Stevens, called John Wayne Gacy.
Sufjan, who adores Chicago, not from there.
Yeah,
that boy loves Chicago.
Loves the Midwest. Yeah,
he ain't Chicago.
Do you think that Sufjan Stevens has seen Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer?
I don't think so. I think this movie is entirely too brutal for the tender little babe that is Sufjan Stevens.
Have you heard that song, John Wayne Gacy?
I've not.
It's, Drusilla, is so beautiful and haunting and sad. And for that reason, I think maybe he has seen this.
Maybe he has. You know how in like the 90s or something, they had Philip Glass do a new score for Dracula?
Mm-hmm.
I would love for Sufjan Stevens to write a new score for Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
It would be amazing, actually. That's a great idea.
Imagine Michael Rooker doing all of this shit with this tender little acoustic guitar in the background.
It would make it very haunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sufjan, we got a great idea. I know the distributors of Henry. Let's get a conversation going.
I think it would give it it would take it less out of like, less brutal and icky and more like haunting, which would be an interesting change.
Yeah, that's fair. We talked about a few of the absolute Chicago bangers that were happening at the time. Obviously, John Hughes shone a very bright spotlight on Chicago. But another murderer made a great movie about Chicago, and that is John Landis, who is liable for the deaths of 3 people in the set of the Twilight Zone movie. Therefore, yes. John
Including
Landis
Jennifer
is
Jason Leigh's father,
Vic Morrow, and 2 children that should never have been on that set to begin with. Do you think murderer and Chicagoland filmmaker John Landis has seen Henry, and horror aficionado who made American Werewolf in London has seen Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer?
I want to say no, because it feels like his taste would be more old school. And this is me being very generous to him. His taste would be more classic, kind of old school. You know, he made American Werewolf in London, which is referencing like older movies. I feel like this movie would be too indie, too grisly, and ultimately kind of too cool for John Landis. Do you know what I mean?
I get it.
I feel like maybe Max Landis has seen this movie.
Oh, but he's such a piece of... Honestly, piece of shit. Almost the whole family, piece of shit. Sorry.
Okay, so when I first...
Sorry if your name is Landis, but rot.
When I first got management as a writer, 10 years ago, I had the same manager as Max Landis. Oof. Neither of us have this manager anymore, but he was constantly telling me to, like... comparing me to Max Landis, like a father who liked one son more than the other. And he was like, Max Landis is so successful and he's the same kind of writer as you. And if you only did such and such more like Max Landis, you would have the success that he does. And I'm like, I don't have John Landis as a father. Like, let's be honest about the big difference between the two of us. It was such a weird thing.
Good God.
I think that's it for this episode of Bloodhouse. Thank you so much for listening. Please rate it 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at BloodhousePod. You can email us bloodhousepod@gmail.com. Drusilla, where are you these days?
You can find me and my art over at sisterhidedesign.com. And speaking of Chicago, I just did the Riot Fest tour poster for a little band called The Cure.
It looks so good.
Who played at Chicago this past few weeks. I don't know when this episode's coming out. So that's up on my website, and it will be available to purchase up on my website very, very shortly. You can buy it now at shop.thecure.com, but I will have a very, 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 very limited batch of artist APs available on my site to buy, autographed by me. Yeah, that's pretty sick. The Cure
That's
and
so
Talking
cool.
Heads in the same year. I guess I'm the new wave, baby. Let's go. You can also follow me on Instagram at Hyde Sister. And if you search for Sister Hyde or Drusilla Adeline on Letterboxd, you will find me there, and you can find all the good little things that I'm watching over there. And you can be like, Drew, what did you think of the Venture Brothers movie? Well, it's there. Read about it. Josh, what about you? Where are you these days?
I'm at Joshua Conkle on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterboxd. Next week, we are taking a break from the roughies and heading to softer European shores. What are we watching?
We're going from Chicago hot dogs to German brats because we are watching, which is a hell of a transition. We are watching German new wave icon and very depressing man and star of Parks and Recreation, Werner Herzog's Nosferatu.
Can't wait. Love that one. See ya.